How's everybody doing? Tinkering with Harleys. I want to thank all of you who have subscribed. I greatly appreciate it. If you're watching these videos and enjoy them, by all means subscribe. Keep the questions coming, keep the comments coming. They're all great. I answer every one of them. And I want to start off by saying summer has arrived in Arizona. It is hotter than hell outside. You can probably hear my air conditioner running in the background. This time of year, because getting older, I can't ride in the heat anymore, especially when it gets over 95 and 100. I know a lot of guys can ride when it gets that warm. I can't. I gotta wait till the evening comes around and it cools down, and then I can go out and ride. And it's different than the rest of the country. The rest of the country, you know, come wintertime, you put your bike up. In the summertime in Arizona, you put your bike up in the daytime and ride it in the evening or early in the morning. So I just figured I'd pass that on to you. But moving on, the last two videos we did on spring-loaded tensioners on twin cams, the 9906s, and we explained in both videos how to do different things. But the one thing we didn't talk about is inspecting and maintaining the inside of the cam case and the components like the cams, the oil pump, the bearings. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to show you that stuff. So we'll get right to it. Okay, so here we've got the components for inside the cam case. And after you've changed your tensioners, while you have it apart, this is the time to check this stuff, like the camshafts. You take the camshafts and you inspect the back end of it, see if there's any gouges, any score marks, anything unusual. You also check the lobes for the cam. That tells you how your lifters are running. If everything's running good, and you can reuse these. Now, both these cams have roughly 50,000 miles on them, and they're in excellent shape for that kind of mileage. So it tells you everything's good. The second thing you need to inspect is the bearings in your cam plate. Now, there's no bearings or bushings inside this cam plate. They've been removed, but there are bearings in these. You take your finger and you roll it around in there. Make sure there's no restrictions at all on the bearings. And you look to see if anything's discolored, if there's any flat spots in the bearings, and you do it on both sides. This saves you a lot of problems. And your oil pump. Your oil pump, this is the heart of your motorcycle, of your engine. And this has multiple parts, multiple gears, and you inspect all this stuff. You check them for damage. You check for scoring, anything like that, any foreign debris inside. You check all the gears to make sure they're good. There's marks on all of them. But this is, since you have this thing apart, this is when you check all this stuff. You also have needle bearings inside the case on the twin cam, as this picture shows. And what you do with that is you take a good look in there, get a flashlight and go in there and take your finger, and there are needle bearings. They're pressed in. You take your finger and you roll it around and make sure there is no restriction to those bearings at all. And you do it on both of them. And you check the bearings, make sure they're all there, that the needles are all there. And if one of them's not, believe me, you would have known it before you got to that point. And make sure none of them are cocked or twisted, anything like that. If you see something in those needle bearings that's cocked or twisted, you need to replace those bearings. They're not very expensive, and now's the time to change them. And you inspect all of this stuff. And if you see anything that's scored or worn, don't just change your tensioners and throw these things back in on worn bearings, because it's a recipe for disaster, as in these pictures I will show. Now, in the first picture, I'm showing you a cam plate with a tensioner that has come apart. And if you look in the bottom of the cam case, you can see it. This engine had a catastrophic engine failure. It had to be completely rebuilt because all that stuff went all through the engine. The second picture is a picture of the cam, and if you look at the right side cam, you can see pieces of the bearing stuck to the end of that cam. Now, when we went and looked at the other bearing, that bearing was also damaged. So what had happened, somebody had changed everything without checking those bearings, thrown them back in, and the bearing failed. When the bearing failed and that bearing came apart, it went down through the engine and it went into the oil pump. Now here is the oil pump. A piece of that needle bearing went in that oil pump and it seized it up, and in turn the engine kept turning. Once the oil pump seized, it twisted the crankshaft. So this is another engine that had to be rebuilt. It was completely destroyed. And if you look at this picture, you can see where that bearing came loose inside the case. That side of the case couldn't be used again. That was trash. Had to get another side of the case and completely rebuild the lower end. Had to rebuild the whole engine. But this is why you check this stuff. These are easy checks. They can be done while it's out, and now's the time to do it while you got the bike apart. So that's pretty much what we just wanted to talk to you about, is just inspect everything that's inside that cam case. So these are all very simple checks to do. You have the cam plate out with the cams. The cam case is opened up. You can inspect the needle bearings. You can inspect your camshafts. You can inspect the bearings inside your cam plate. You can inspect the oil pump. And this is the time to do it when it's apart. And if you find anything that's not looking right, that needs to be replaced, now's the time to replace it. Bearings are not that expensive. And believe me, with those pictures that I showed you of where there was the failures, these were very expensive repairs. If somebody had gone out and replaced those bearings instead of just slapping everything back together, it would have just cost them a couple of bucks rather than $5,000 for an engine rebuild. So this is one of the things that I wanted to bring up, and I can't stress enough, and I shouldn't do it with every video, and I forget. Service manuals. Service manuals will guide you through working on your bike. And inspecting these cams and these tensioners with not only the spring-loaded one, with the hydraulic ones, it's a must. You need to inspect them. This is part of your general maintenance. And I mean, there's a way to eliminate it. You can go to gear drive oil pump and gear drive cams, but those things still have to be inspected from time to time because bearings wear out. So I hope this helps somebody, and I hope I've done a good enough job with this, with the cam case, that you guys got a good idea on what to look for. And we're going to do another video, one more, and we're just going to do it on oil pumps. And that'll pretty much do it. So thank you all for watching. I hope, like I said, I hope this helps somebody. And until next time, everybody be safe out there.